Crisis in the Middle East. Mount St. Helens wreaks death and destruction. An attempt on President Reagan. Anwar Sadat, slain. These are news flashes of our immediate past. Catastrophes, tragedies, or near tragedies that shape the world we live in. Stories that reach us by way of newspapers, radio, and television after the fact. But did you ever wonder what it would be like to know events like these before they happen? To see the news before it hits the media? The question could best be answered by this man. He's Lenny Cook, reputed to be America's most accurate psychic.
Frightening most of the time. I think what it is when you see something that's going to happen off into the future, and if it's dynamic enough and in a pessimistic way, I think that's what frightens you, is that it seems to be bad news more than good news.
Born Leonard J. Cook 43 years ago in Long Island, New York, Lenny first realized that he possessed the special gift of being able to briefly glimpse at events to come when, at the age of 14, he had a vision that a future president of the United States, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, would die in office. A vision he had 10 years before that event happened. Astoundingly enough, it was another vision that prompted Lenny to move his family and his commercial art business to North Carolina.
I had this dream about Long Island being flooded by a tidal wave and some catastrophic geographic events in and about where, naturally where I live, along the seaboard. And to move to North Carolina, I had some property, and I've been in North Carolina before, and I just like the air. I feel more secure here for some reason. I don't know, I just feel safer.
He may feel safer, but his dreams and future flashes are something Lenny has to contend with every day. So how do these predictions come to him?
There's nothing that induces you to realize, yes, here it comes. I'm coming on with something. I think what it is you're just daydreaming, and I can realize when I'm looking that it's not a fantasy, or it may look like a political figure. It could look like an area. I may not know the area. I may not know the year. That's why a lot may not have a specific date or a specific name, but you can pretty well identify with it. And then you don't realize that what you're talking about until you see the event happen, because you don't have all the specifics. But
it was in 1967 that he first began documenting his predictions. Bothered by a series of recurring and often conflicting dreams, Lenny typed up some of his revelations, had them notarized and sealed shut in a letter. In August 1976, these were made public. To everyone's amazement, many of the predictions typed 12 years previous had already proven correct. In time, others would prove themselves true. Among the more memorable, the United States putting the first man on the moon, Watergate and the Nixon resignation, the Patty Hearst kidnapping, Jimmy Carter's election to the office of president, the Mount St. Helens catastrophe, the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan, and most recently, the murder of Egypt's President Anwar Sadat. To date, 213 predictions have been duly notarized with a better than 90% rate of accuracy. Since going public with the 1967 letters, Lenny Cook's personal life in pursuit of his artistic endeavors and being a full-time father to his 7-year-old daughter, Candy, has had its share of interruptions.
Sometimes it presents a burden. The mail is unbelievable. You can't find your normal mail for the likes of just hundreds of replies and all interesting letters, people wanting to talk, and it's unbelievable amount of response you get. And then another thing is you get tested a lot. People want to check and see what makes you tick.
Lenny agreed to our finding out what makes him tick. A biofeedback session monitored by Dr. William Knight and Dr. George Wesley was set up at the Center for Psychological Services at Appalachian State University in Boone, North Carolina.
The first thing I did was prepare the skin so that there would be good contact. Now, what we were measuring was electrical activity of the frontalis muscle. The muscle goes across the forehead, and that correlates quite closely with alpha. Now, alpha, many people wonder what alpha is. Alpha is a state of relaxed well-being where the person feels extremely serene, very comfortable, and so forth.
We learned it's this alpha state, the serene, dreamy state of mind, that one normally associates with psychic potential. One with a high degree of alpha is more susceptible to psychic experience.
The thing that I found about Lenny was that even in conversation, he remained very relaxed. Now, it was not profound relaxation that would be typical of possibly alpha, continuous alpha. But even when we would ask him questions, it was interesting that he did not become tense as most people would, and we didn't see the deviation in the meter that normally folks see.
Both doctors were impressed with Lenny's ability to maintain a high degree of alpha activity. Dr. George Wesley, who had known Lenny previously, recounted a personal story about the seer. On New Year's Eve 2 years ago, he received a call from Lenny warning him to stay home.
I ignored it and went, and on the way back, totaled my car, broke several ribs, cracked my sternum, and was in the hospital for a while. So the second time he called that way and told me not to go anywhere, I didn't go.
Lenny Cook looks at his ability as a very special gift. He doesn't know how he does it, where the power comes from. Although he can catch flashes of the future, he won't hold himself to specific dates. But he did share some startling predictions to be on the lookout for over the next decade.
Food and land changes is our biggest thing to look forward to in the next decade. Food's going to get higher and shorter. The land will be disappearing, water in places where you didn't have before, volcanoes, earthquakes, and all that sounds, the pestilences of all sorts, that sounds very pessimistic. However, I think in this next decade is when we're going to spot it. Mount St. Helens being just the beginning. There's Mount Hood, Shasta, Lassen. There's a number of others that we have listed in there right along the coast that'll completely all go off. And all of your west coast will be gone, not just part of it, all of it. There'll be water within 3 states.
Naturally, Lenny hopes these predictions won't come true, but with his degree of accuracy, the future doesn't look very optimistic.
What's it like to know tomorrow's events today? See the news before it hits the airwaves.
Frightening most of the time. I think what it is when you see something that's going to happen off into the future, and if it's dynamic enough and in a pessimistic way, I think that's what frightens you, is just that it seems to be bad news more than good news.
Lenny, how many years have you had this gift, the gift of being able to look into the future? How long has it been with you?
Well, I really didn't realize how long it was, but since doing these predictions, we've noticed that it goes back, I guess, I know for sure when I notarized the letter. However, one of the doctors on the hypnosis said it probably went back before that, but your retention was so small that you didn't remember what the dreams you may have had, so forth. But I would say back into my early teenage, 13, 14.
Do you remember back then some of your first visions, or I don't know what the right word is, but when you thought there was something, when you first recognized there was something a little bit out of sync?
I would say probably 15, 16. And one of the predictions that I had made them, but then there was a number of others who have, as well as me, and that was the Kennedy assassination.
Your glimpses into the future, how do these come about? How do you receive them? Are they dreams? Do you space out? Do you become spastic? Do you go into a trance? What's it like?
I think, Kevin, after doing research and working with a number of parapsychologists, their answer is that I'm emitting a high level of alpha wave during that time that I'm making this prediction. To relate it to you how I'm doing it, I don't know how I'm doing it, but what I'm experiencing is this. It's just like a daydream. You know how you'd be driving to and from someplace and I guess you're daydreaming about something. Your mind's somewhere else. It's the same. You don't hear an audible sound. You don't see a visual picture. It's just like a thought pattern that you're receiving. There's no format that I go through. Like some may have a little gimmick they'll use to, or whatever in their hands, maybe, I guess, be their scapegoat. some form of divination. I don't have any form. I don't even know how it comes. It just does. And when it does, I write them down and notarize it.
When people daydream, when I daydream, I'm driving along to work and I'm get caught up in a daydream. The daydreams for me always center around fantasies, goals you're trying to achieve, and boy, what would it be like to be driving this kind of car, living in this kind of house, or living in this state? So I guess the question is there seems to be no fantasy element involved in the predictions that at least I've read.
Well, I have fantasies. I just don't write them down and notarize them. And people say, don't you have any dreams about yourself? And I think an answer to your question is when you have a daydream, if you have it about yourself, it's either a fantasy, wishful thinking, or maybe it's the real thing. But I don't really know, so that's why I don't see much about myself. But these other ones that I do see, they seem to have like a long range before they take place. And I just don't know. It's hard. I don't think I know.
Okay, are you, when you hit that daydream state, in one sense you're involved in the conscious state, the three-dimensional plane. You're driving, you're conscious of driving, the roads, the signs, reading, the whole works. Yet you might be talking about an attempt on a world leader's life that might be happening 10 years upstream. What happens? Is there a part of your brain or your psyche itself that's open to all of this, or
I don't.
Do you know when a wave is coming to hit you?
No, not really. I mean, there's nothing that induces you to realize, yes, here it comes. I'm coming on with something. I think what it is you're just daydreaming, and I can realize when I'm looking that it's not a fantasy, or it may look like a political figure. It could look like an area. I may not know the area. I may not know the year. That's why a lot may not have a specific date or a specific name, but you can pretty well identify with it. And then you don't realize that what you're talking about until you see the event happen, because you don't have all the specifics. But there's no warning of this coming on or nothing. It's just like a daydream is the best way to sort of explain it. But during that time I'm doing that, I'd be emitting an alpha wave.
Is it upsetting for you?
At times, yeah. At times, some of it is. Matter of fact, out of the 213 predictions, I'd like to be wrong on a lot of them, because it would be quite upsetting. Some of them are pessimistic.
Okay, so far to date, you have had 213. Are these notarized?
Yeah, these are all notarized and been published in newspapers somewhere prior to the event.
In your estimation, what has been some of your most startling predictions, the ones that really left you personally shaken?
I have to think about that one for me. There's so many of them. I think the assassination attempt of Kennedy was one of them.
Oh, Kennedy?
Of Kennedy. That's a while back. And another one was the volcano one in the United States, because even though I'd seen it and, when I said it, I still, it seemed strange, a volcano in the United States. I wasn't expecting it. And then the other one was Sadat was killed, because I thought I was wrong. I said he'd be out of office within a year and a half, and there'd be an assassination attempt, and that year and a half went by and nothing happened, and that made my second one wrong. And then I found out that I was wrong in as far as the time is concerned, but the event happened.
Okay.
They all startle you, usually when if it has any magnitude to it when it happens. I think when it happens is I'm relieved in a way to know that at least I'm not crazy or something. This is happening, but I'm sorry to see it happen, because, again, it's pessimistic. But not all of them are pessimistic.
Okay. Just for the purposes of what we need to do here, what I need to do, I'm going to go back and re-ask you the question, since, you went through a whole thinking process. And if you bring back the fact, rather than Kennedy assassination attempt, the Kennedy assassination.
Right.
In fact,
Yeah.
And mention Mount St. Helens, the volcano.
Okay.
We'll have video to support that. Okay. In your estimation, what has been your most startling predictions? The ones that have really left you shaken. In your estimation, what has been your most startling predictions? The ones that have really left you shaken.
One was some time ago, the Kennedy assassination, And the other one, which is more present in the news, is the Mount St. Helens volcano.
Okay, so since 76, what are some other predictions that are either currently in the works or that have come about?
Well, one that has come about was the Chowchilla kidnapping. It was worded here as in 1976 shall have its bizarre kidnapping of a truckload of children. They shall be found alive, and the 3 men responsible for this crime shall be arrested. And along with that prediction, within it said crime increases, kidnapping becomes known of a prominent figure. This girl shall be involved in the kidnapping while being captive under a group of radicals in 1975. Both those was within one prediction, but one happened before the letter was open, and then the Chowchilla one happened on or about a little after it was open. And then one is America must leave Persia by 1980 when the religious leader takes control, which is Iran. And one that's currently being affected right now is says by 1980 interest will be at 15%.
After those predictions, Lenny, in 76 were released, you suddenly were jettisoned into the media. How did that affect your life?
Sometimes it presents a burden. The mail is unbelievable. You can't find your normal mail for the likes of just hundreds of replies and all interesting letters, people wanting to talk, and it's unbelievable amount of response you get. And then another thing is you get tested a lot. People want to check and see what makes you tick, or give you a stereotype, or want you to perform some kind of a feat. And you get a lot of that, and once you go through that, and then you get through it all, and I think after that it's not quite as bad. You sort of get accustomed to it. At first it was presented a burden. Now I evade a lot of the response. I'll answer everybody that writes, but just it'll take time.
Kind of like PM wanting to do testing on you too, huh?
Yeah, that's all right.
All right. In some of those letters, you get an abundance of letters. You talked to me earlier about people doing a lot of odd requests, and apparently a lot of people ask to do readings. Do you do readings for them?
Yes and no. That's that for an answer. Yes, I have, and no, I don't have the time, because I don't charge for readings. There's no way in the world I make any money on this particular phenomenon that I have. I run my own business and make my living from that. But because I'm running my own business and taking care of a little girl, it's very difficult to try to devote all your time to give readings, such as you can be doing them 8 hours a day every day for the rest of your life. And I don't think I'd be as accurate, because I'm not the kind of person that can just look at you and push the on switch and say, Kevin, I know what you're going to do. You're going to travel west in the morning, or something that ridiculous, you know. But I have done things for people, and, as you know, from who you've talked to, and it's come true. But to just give each person an individual reading would be impossible. I just can't do it. I'm not an on and off psychic.
Okay. Lenny, to date, how many predictions have you made, or visions have you notarized as predictions, and how many have come true?
Well, there's 213 recorded predictions. When I say recorded, they were posted in public place or notarized, and out of those 213, and I don't know them all because some of them is so far removed the prediction, I have to have a clipping somewhere. But from what we know of all the clippings that people sent us in, I've missed 2 out of 213, and one of the 2 was the Sadat assassination, which should have happened a year ago according to my prediction. So I'm 2 wrong out of 213. 1 I'm only wrong within the time, not the event.
Okay, what was the other one that you...
The Carter re-election. I said Carter would be re-elected. And we made a lot happy that he wasn't, but I blew the prediction. That was 1 out of 213, which is wonderful.
Do you have a normal life, or are you all consumed by a paranormal lifestyle?
More normal. Believe it or not, I have well, as you can see around here, I lead a very normal life. Eat the same foods, go to the same places, probably get into the same mischief, run a family. And this other thing that I do that we call paranormal, it's just something that comes. No apparent